So in the last class we discussed about the planar transmission lines and also the particular simple problem I gave. I think you might have solved. I'll give some of the problems as assignment. Okay, so you can solve and submit in the Moodle. I'll upload. Okay. So now we'll go to the next concept, that is scattering parameters and microwave passive components. Okay, so now what is this scattering parameters, why we need to use, and also what is the importance of these scattering parameters. So you might have already studied or done in lab, so you might have seen S11, S21 some value. Say for example, if you got for line resonator minus 5 dB, so what is that 5 dB? How much power you are giving as an input, how you are measuring that S21. So all these things we will study here. Okay, so and also these S parameters are very much essential in designing of microwave passive components. Even also in the active components, some specific procedures need to be applied so that you will get the values of scattering parameters. So now before go to that scattering parameters, what will happen at low frequency we will see. So what will happen at low frequency? You might have known at low frequency the dimension of the circuits are very small relative to wavelength. Why? Because so the wavelength itself, if you operate in terms of kilohertz or megahertz, the wavelength itself in terms of meters. Okay, so that's why if you take the circuit dimensions, there will be in terms of centimeters or in terms of few centimeters. So that's why what will happen, so the circuit dimensions are very much small compared to wavelength. So what will happen there, we cannot take into consideration the phase delay. That means the wave traveling from the input to the output. So we will take approximately the voltage measuring which is there at the input, which may be give the same value at the output because of the very less value of the circuit dimension. Okay, so just if you give an example, if you input from the voltage, the signal whatever sign from the signal generator, and if you give it to the oscillator, and if you see the waveform, so whatever you give peak to peak voltage 5 volts, so that will be appear it as 5 volts nearly or approximately 5 volts in the oscillator. So in the low frequency in terms of kilohertz or megahertz if you have measured. So why this that will happen, because the circuit whatever using, those are all very much small compared to the wavelength which you are operating. That's why whatever input voltage you are giving, it will appear at the output. So this in the lower frequencies the circuit dimension are small, so that's why what we generally will do, the phase delay from one point to the circuit to the other point we will neglect it. That means the time which is taken to travel the wave from input port to the output port, so that delay we are not considering. So generally that delay, so we will calculate using the path length. So generally the how much path it is traveling from one point to other point, that path in terms of phase we are calculating, that we will call it as phase delay. Okay, so that in the lower circuit, that is in the lower frequency, the circuit the phase delay we are not considering. So due to the wavelength is much higher than the circuit dimension, and this delay approximately we are taken it as 0. So that's why we are neglecting this phase delay in the lower frequency when you are operating the circuit or any like devices. Okay, and the fields can be considered it as TEM fields supported by 2 or more conductors. So generally you might have observed in the lower frequency what will happen, just if you have some circuit like this or something like any circuit, so generally what will happen, you will apply the voltage and you will have the ground. Okay, so you will have the ground. That means so at any particular point if you are measuring the voltage, this is with respect to ground, plus and minus you can take. Okay, so if you consider this as a ground, we are measuring with respect to 2 conductor system. So that means this one wire we are taking, that conducting wire, and this is we are taking another conducting wire which is actually considered it as a ground plane. So that's why in this type of cases we actually get the TEM kind of fields, but generally that fields will restrict to in the transmission line or waveguide techniques. But in general, if you take the circuit analysis here, we'll always measure the voltage or current. Okay, so always we'll measure at the lower frequency region or in the circuit analysis. So in network analysis you might have studied, we always used to find out voltage or current. Okay, so in the two conductor system, generally we will take it as TM fields. The two conductor system in the sense, so in the like transmission line theory, you can take it as the coaxial cable, which is example for two conductor system, or you can take any transmission line, two wire transmission line, that is also a two conductor system. Okay, so also you can consider it as the strip line also. It is a two conductor system. You have a center strip as well as ground plane, and also in the micro strip line case, it will be having the conductor as well as the ground plane. So in those type of cases, we can consider the field configuration as TEM fields. So now there are many techniques which are available for the low frequency circuits. Say for example, Thevenin's equivalent voltage or Norton's to find out the current in the circuit. So many methods are there in the low frequency circuits, but the same thing we cannot apply it to microwave circuits. So if we want to find out the voltage or current at the higher frequency, the same method what we are using at the lower frequency, we cannot apply directly to the microwave circuits. So then what is the next, what is the analysis we have to do, or what is the method we need to follow, that we will see. So generally what if you take any microwave problem, or if any take high frequency circuit analysis, so it is much easier to apply the circuit analysis to a microwave problem than the Maxwell's equation. Say for example, if you want to analyze the field quantities like electric field or magnetic field for a particular microwave problem, you can use the Maxwell's equation. Or if you want for the same problem, if you want the voltage or current, then we have to apply the circuit analysis. Now here we have to note down for which problem we need to apply what. So then only the particular problem which will give exact results in terms of voltage or current, or in terms of the electric and magnetic field. So if you apply some, say for example, if you apply the voltage and current to some problem, it may leads in such cases it may lead some error results. So in those cases we need to come back and we have to apply the Maxwell's equation and find out the electric and magnetic field. So like that, so in particular problem if you take, we have to first intuitively see which either voltage or current or the field configuration it is applied to as a particular microwave problem. That is very important in analyzing any microwave circuit. Okay, the solution to Maxwell's equation for a given problem gives, so as I said, the Maxwell's equation gives electric and magnetic field, the solution of complete problem which is in terms of the electric and magnetic field. From that we can arrive other parameters, like maybe you can get the power flowing through the circuit, or any problem, or power flowing, or impedance, or any other parameters. So for a particular problem, if you use the Maxwell's equation, by using this electric and magnetic field, we can arrive other parameters. So for if you take the simple circuit analysis, we will take the voltage or current. From the voltage or current, we arrive the other particular parameters which we need for a microwave problem. Okay. So now it is easy to modify original problem or combine several elements together and find the response. That means if you take say for example, if you take any two microwaves or any two circuit components, say for example this is one microwave circuit and this is another microwave circuit. Now if I combine these two, and if I want to find out the voltage at the input, as well as if you apply some voltage at the input, what is the voltage at the output? If I have a microwave circuit 1 and microwave circuit 2, so in combination of these, like cascaded connection, even in the parallel connection also, we can able to find by using the circuit analysis properly, that is circuit concept in terms of voltage and current. Okay, so this is very helpful in microwave circuit. The some particular type of problem like this cascaded connection, these circuit concepts will be very helpful in finding out the parameters like voltage and current. Okay, so now as I said, in some microwave problem, if you apply the circuit concepts, it maybe gives some error results. In that situation, you have to come back and you have to resort it, or if you want to apply field, if it is fits into field approach, you have to apply this the Maxwell's equation solutions to find out electric and magnetic field, and from that you can arrive other parameters. Okay, so that is very important, in which problem we need to apply what. Okay, so both these Maxwell's equations solutions as well as the voltage and currents, both will be available in commercially some RF CAD packages or RF CAD tools. So say for example your AWR itself, if you take, so that software contains both circuit schematic or circuit simulation as well as the EM simulation, that is electromagnetic simulation. You can use both to find out the solution in terms of either in terms of fields or in terms of voltage and currents. So that's how you have to apply for a particular microwave problem, which is the best solution. Okay, so now, so if you take any like transmission line or even waveguide, if you have studied already in the transmission line theory, so the waveguide is a metallic kind of thing. It contains a single metallic box. So a transmission line, if you take two conductor transmission line, so it will be having a distributed elements in between. So if you take these any of these type, so what are all the characteristic of this? So first we will take into consideration the length, because the length it matters when it comes to phase. As I said, so if you go for higher frequency, whatever we said, the phase delay which we are neglected at the lower frequency, that we need to consider at the higher frequency, because that length of the transmission line which will give the path traveled by the wave in terms of the phase. So that's why that phase delay we need not to neglect at the higher frequency, that we need to take into consideration. So if you take any transmission line or waveguide, so we need to characterize by its length, how much length we are taking for the analysis, and also the propagation constant k. So how it describes the wave traveling in a particular direction, and it gives both attenuation as well as the phase, how much the power loss is happening in the either in the transmission line or in the waveguide, and also how much phase, if we travel from one point to other point, how much phase is changing with respect to input signal applied. So that it will give in both the analysis. And also the very important parameter is characteristic impedance, because so this will gives the impedance of a line at a particular point, or if you take waveguide a particular mode, there will be a characteristic impedance. So these are all very important parameters in analysis of transmission line or waveguide in a higher frequency region. Okay, so now use of network or transmission line theory to analyze the behavior of entire system of components. So as I said, we can apply the network concepts like to find the voltage or current, or you can apply transmission line theory. So if you apply the transmission line theory, you will get the transmitted the traveling wave in the forward direction or the reflected wave in the backward direction. You will get the different parameters like reflection coefficient, the characteristic impedance of the line, and as well as the power flowing through the transmission line. So now based on this the method of analysis, you need to take the either circuit concept or transmission line theory concept for a particular components need to be analyzed. Okay, so now what are the effects need to be considered while apply these theories? So first we need to consider multiple reflections. So what is meant by multiple reflections? You can see, so if you have just a line, if you are applying the input voltage, okay, so now the wave which is traveling here, some part of the wave it is, so where there is a impedance mismatch here. Okay, if it is having a impedance mismatch, then what will happen? Some part of the wave is reflected back and part of the wave is transmitted. So now this is transmitted and this is input signal and this is a reflected signal. Okay, and what happens again at the port side, if there is any mismatch here, again this wave reflected which is again come back to here. Okay, and again if there is a mismatch here, again it will come back here. So like that, these are all the multiple reflections which are occurred at the particular transmission line or any kind of device you take. So that's why these multiple reflections we need to take into consideration while designing the problem or while solving the particular problem. And last, so anyhow, if you take the conductor, any conductor system, if you take example of strip line or microstrip line itself, due to this conductor which we have placed, so the conductor loss and as well as dielectric loss will be there. So now particularly, so those losses we need to take into consideration. And also impedance transformation, as I said here, so if there is an impedance mismatch, so now how can we able to reduce the reflection or how much we can able to transfer the impedance. Say for example, if I want to match here whatever the impedance here, so say for example if I have input impedance of 50 ohm and if I have some network here, now at the output side if I want to get the very good matching and the power delivery from input port to the load, if it is maximum, if you want to do, then the impedance must be matched here, so from input to the load. Okay, so if it is matched the impedance, then the maximum power will get transferred, so that you will get the very good power transfer from the input to the load. So that's why whenever you need to take any network, microwave network or microwave component, so the impedance transformation is very important. So either it may be matched condition or it may be some applications needs unmatched condition. So particularly you need to take with respect to the problem. Okay, so this impedance transformation is also important. And also transmission from one type of transmission medium to other. What is mean by that? Say for example, if I have the transmission line here, two conductor transmission line, and if I take the SMA connector, say for example SMA connector, in the sense you have the coaxial connector. SMA in terms of the coaxial itself, in terms of SMA connector is available. As I said, there is a inner conductor and there will be a outer conductor. Okay, so in this outer conductor and inner conductor there will be the dielectric. Okay, so this inner conductor we are terminated into or we can matched into a conductor of one conductor of transmission line, and the outer conductor we can take it into another another conductor of the transmission line. So just if I use this properly, and this is your center conductor and this is your outer conductor. Say for example, this is your inner conductor which is going to the one transmission line, and outer conductor we are grounded here. Okay, so this is maybe two conductor transmission line. So now this impedance, even that transition from this coaxial cable to the transmission line, whatever you have, so that is very important. So you need to take into consideration, so what is the impedance match between these two conductor system as well as this SMA connector. And even you can, another example if you take, if you have a simple wire antenna, say for example if you have a single dipole and you need to match this and this, that means you have to feed this one through again the coaxial connector. So you can use that one conductor to here and one conductor to here. So that's how you need to impedance transformation you need to take care. And also another type is a bent kind of type. So if you have, say for example, transmission line like this, and even if you can take a very good example is a step transmission line. Say for example you have like this, here there is a step. Actually I am not able to draw properly. So if there is a step here, so if you see the staircase, say for example if you see the staircase, from one staircase to other staircase there is uh, a difference. So in those kind of bent or transmission line, so you need to take care the transmission, that is transition from one type of the medium to other. Even if you take the example of the if you say for example antenna is there as a transmitter, now that wave is transmitted to free space. Now there is a wave, it is transition from antenna to the free space. So now that transition is happening. So that is also important in terms of impedance match. So that you need to take care, so while doing this microwave problem. And this microwave network theory was originally developed in the service of radar system, because so in the radar we need to particularly find the target which is of our interest. So in developing these radar systems, so this actually microwave network theory, either transmission line theory as well as waveguide theory, because the waveguides which will carry high power capacity, so that's why so they are using in the radar systems. So that we'll see, maybe you have studied already in transmission line theory the waveguide, the modes as well as the power capacity and all. So those are all used in the radar system. So it is originally developed by so MIT radiation lab. So as this network theory as well as this the components, microwave components. Okay, so now if you take a two conductor system, how can we find out voltage and current, that is equivalent voltage and current? So now at microwave frequency, so directly we cannot able to measure the voltage or current. It is very difficult because there is no two conductor pair is available. Even if it is available also, you don't have a device directly which is measuring the voltage and current. So unless if you have oscillator which is or my oscilloscope which you have, so which we can measure voltage and current in the lower frequency. In the higher frequency we cannot, it is very difficult to measure that directly the voltage and current. So that's why the specialized specialized equipment is there, which we'll call it as vector network analyzer, that exactly it will not measure the voltage and current, but instead it will measure the scattering parameters. That we'll see later what are those scattering parameters, as we already see in the lab S11 and S21. So those will be measured at the higher frequency. So that will be the equipment used to measure that S parameters. Now first we will see the equivalent voltage and currents in the higher frequency or any two conductor system, how we can measure. Okay, at microwave frequency, so first what we will do, so we will find out the electric and magnetic field. So we know the voltage, how we can calculate from the electric field. If we have these two conductor systems, say for example one is positive and one is negative, so now between plus to minus, how the field configuration it is there, you can see. From this first we need to find what is the electric field and also what is the magnetic field. Now from this magnetic and electric field we are calculating what is the voltage and current. So this is actually the closed contour. So when we integrate this magnetic field in a closed contour, we will get the current. Okay, so you might have well known the law which is Ampere's law. So from that we can calculate this. So now in general we can calculate the impedance by taking the ratio of this voltage and current. Okay, so this is generally a two conductor transmission line which is having a TEM mode of propagation. Okay, so now coming to the if you take the waveguide, what will happen? The waveguide is a non-TEM mode. So that means there is no two conductor here to measure the corresponding voltage or current or field. So now what will happen in this situation? So there is only a metallic box which is there. So how we can measure the voltage and current in this particular type of situation? So what will happen? So here we cannot directly in general measure the voltage and current. So in this what will happen? A particular mode we will take, either you can take TE mode or TM mode. Say we might have seen in the waveguide theory, you might have see the TE10, TE01, TM11 like that. Different modes will be there. So now we calculate the voltage and current for a particular mode only in the waveguide situation. Okay. So these are the, you might have already known this electric and magnetic field equations, well known for waveguide theory. So this is electric field and magnetic field. Okay, so if you take this electric field and magnetic field, and if you calculate the voltage by using this electric field, now what will happen? So there is a variation in the y direction and there is a variation in the x direction, is it not? So now if you put a particular value of x value, and if I integrate from 0 to b, okay, we will get some voltage. And if I change the x value, and also if I change the y dimension also, again it will going to change. So in general, for a different value of x and y, the voltage will be different. So in general, we cannot measure at each and every particular point of a waveguide problem. So we need to take at each and every value of x and y. So that's why it is very difficult to measure the voltage and current in general, but we can measure for a particular mode. Say for example, TE10, TE01 like that. Okay. So which is the dominant mode in waveguide? Can you tell anybody? Hello? Anybody can tell which is the dominant mode in waveguide? Say for example, rectangular waveguide itself. You might have studied, right? So this is actually TE10 is the dominant mode. Okay, so you have to respond, otherwise how can I assume that whether it is understood or not? So anybody, at least you need to respond. Okay. Okay, so voltage and currents for the waveguide, as I said, only for a particular mode it will be defined, and it is proportional to the corresponding transverse electric field and magnetic field. Okay, so if you take any, in general, if you already know the power which will be a product of voltage and current. So if you find the voltage and current from the electric and magnetic field in a particular waveguide mode, so that product will give the power flow within the waveguide. Okay, so now the ratio of voltage to the current for a single traveling wave should be equal to characteristic impedance of the line. That means, so if you take the forward wave, because in the waveguide also there will be a reflected wave and the traveling forward wave. Okay, for a particular wave, if you want to calculate the impedance, say for example, if you forward wave, if you are take the ratio of voltage and current of the forward wave, you will get the impedance of the traveling wave or forward wave, and you can get the similar for the reflected wave. Okay, so this is about the characteristic impedance. So now for an arbitrary mode, say for example any mode if it is there, so for that mode how we can calculate voltage and current? So as I said, first we need to calculate the transverse electric and as well as magnetic field. From this magnetic field and electric field, so we can calculate the what is the power. Okay, so this is the voltage. Any of you from the transmission line theory, you have known that if your transmission line, if the wave is traveling in the positive z direction, and if it is reflected back, so this is the well known equation, V plus into e power minus j beta z. So this is the voltage and current equations. So now if you take this V and I, so as we already taken that previous equation, how to calculate the voltage from the electric field. So now that we can take it as voltage and current here. So you can take it here, and these are all the constant. We can take it as C1 and C2 for electric and magnetic field. So this is how the power in plus, that is forward traveling wave, so we can calculate the power, and also we can calculate the impedance, that is forward traveling wave or the reflected wave. Okay, which is equal to V plus by I plus, or you can take it as V minus by I minus. So this is actually the wave impedance, that is ZW, which is related through this equation in terms of electric and magnetic field. Okay, so for particular arbitrary any arbitrary mode in the waveguide, this is how we will calculate the voltage or power or characteristic impedance. Okay, so now next one, it is impedance, which is important parameter in control of the voltage and current. Also we can control by changing the impedance, and also you can see the impedance mismatch. It will leads to a different value of reflected voltage as well as incident, which is incident on a particular load or particular circuit. Okay, so if you take the impedance, the term impedance first introduced by Oliver Heaviside. So what he does is, first he analyzed the impedance for a AC circuits, like general in if you are applying your low frequency circuits and in network analysis, the ratio of V by I is directly give the impedance value. Okay, so now later he applied to a transmission line theory. Now in the transmission line theory, when it comes, so there will be different types of impedances which will impedance concept it will be exist. So if you just take a transmission line theory, so you can have a lumped equivalent circuit as well as the distributed. So in the distributed, you are in lumped, it is very easy to calculate it. It is a ratio of V by I. If it is taking, if you take the distributed elements, so we need to take the impedance as series impedance as well as shunt admittance. So how general transmission line it will be there. Okay, so just if you take a general transmission line, what will happen? So it will be having a resistance, an inductance, and here there is a conductance, and there will be a capacitance. So this is generally, it is distributed over the complete line, transmission line theory. Okay, so if you just take a piece of transmission line, okay, some length delta x. Okay, so the total length, maybe you can take it as L of this transmission line. So it will be characterized by R, L, and here it is G, and here it is C. So now the impedance can be, it will be R plus J omega C, and admittance can be G plus, sorry, R plus J omega L, sorry, G plus J omega C. Okay, so this is how the impedance and admittance characteristics can be defined for a transmission line. Okay, so here the same, it is for the distributed elements, he is taken as impedance and admittance. Okay, and so Skelkunov recognized that this impedance concept could be extended to electromagnetic fields. Okay, so in terms of fields also, as we see here, so this in terms of fields also we can represent the impedance. Generally this is a wave impedance. Even you can take others also for a particular type of lines, like TEM waves or TM waves or TE waves, that can be defined it as impedance of the waves. Okay, so that we'll see. So these impedance concepts can be extended to electromagnetic fields also, and also it regarded as a characteristic of type of field as well as the medium. As I said, we can define the impedance for a particular type of wave, that is TM, TE or TEM, or you can define for a medium. So that medium, if you take the example of intrinsic impedance of the medium, so if you take the free space value of impedance, it will be defined in terms of material parameters. That is, say for example, this will call it as intrinsic impedance of the medium. So how it will be defined? It is defined it as mu naught by epsilon naught. So this will be having a value 377 ohm. So this is also an impedance value. Okay, so how this impedance is related? It is related to the permeability and permittivity of that free space. So you know all the value of permittivity and permeability of the free space. You just put the value, you will get the value. This approximately which will be given it as 377 ohm. So like this, the medium, if you have a particular parameters, other particular parameters like other mu and other epsilon, you can calculate the impedance of that medium. Okay, so it will be applied to medium as well as field. So now this impedance concept, so it is an important link between the circuit theory, field theory as well as the transmission line theory. So first from the circuit we arrived the transmission line voltage and current, and from the transmission line we can go to the field theory, which is in terms of electric as well as magnetic field. Okay, so this impedance concept is the linkage between all these three concepts. Okay, so now what are the types of impedances? As I said, so this is the intrinsic impedance of the medium and it is equal to the wave impedance for plane waves. So plane waves generally it will be exist in the free space. So if you take the medium parameter, that is mu naught by epsilon naught, so that will be give the intrinsic impedance of the medium. So if you take mu naught epsilon, it will be a free space, and if you take any other parameters mu and epsilon, it will give the impedance for that particular medium. Okay, and this is the wave impedance ZW, which is in terms of electric as well as magnetic field. Also in terms of admittance we can define it as. So this wave impedance, it is different for particular type of waves, which is TEM wave, TM wave or TE wave. So this TE and TM waves you know already in the waveguide modes which we can exist, and in TEM two conductor transmission line the TEM will be exist, and these impedances will be different for these different waves. Okay, and also this depends on the operating frequency and also the material, what is the conductive material you are using, and or whatever the transmission line you are using. Okay, so this for a particular mode the operating frequency will vary, that we'll call it as cutoff frequency or cutoff wavelength, which we already seen in the while discussing about the planar transmission line, that is cutoff wavelength or cutoff frequency. So for a particular TE10 mode or TM10 mode, there will be a particular cutoff frequency or cutoff wavelength. So based on that we'll going to operate the waveguide in a particular application. And also in terms of voltage and current, you can see if you take an example of transmission line itself, the characteristic impedance of the line, it is defined it as a ratio of the V by I, that is in the forward traveling wave if you take or reflected traveling wave if you take, that characteristic impedance can be defined in terms of V and I. Okay, so these are the types of impedances, and you need to take care because this is very important in transferring the power from port to the load or one port to the other port maximally. If you match the impedance properly, then you will get the maximum power transfer. Okay, just if you take an example, the intrinsic impedance of the free space, the 377 ohm, if you match it to any transmitter like any antenna, so if the matching is maximum, then the power from the antenna it will be delivered maximally to the free space. Okay, so like that the matching is very important in terms of impedance. Okay, so now coming to the one port, how we can define this equivalent voltage and current, or how we can define in terms of micro network electric and magnetic field. So consider this one port network and you'll be having a electric and magnetic field. This is the unit vector which is directed into the volume which we are taking or surface which you are taking, and this is a input impedance looking from the port to the network. Okay, and we'll define one more term here, the terminal plane. The terminal plane is one which is referred to get the phase of the wave. Okay, the phase reference if you want, or how much phase change which is happening, so that plane, with reference to that plane only we will get the phase information. Okay, so now if you take the one port network, so if you calculate the power in terms of E and H, so this will be the power equation, so which will be having two parts, which is reactive power and real power. So this is actually PL will be the power loss due to the losses due to conductor or ohmic losses, and this will be due to inductor, and the power due to inductor or capacitive effect or the reactance effect. Okay, so now if you take the transverse fields of this network, that is E and H, so this will be the equation in terms of the voltage and current. Okay, So now we assume that the E cross H into ds, which will be a closed surface of this, which will be normalized to the value equal to 1. So now the same if you apply it to calculate the impedance, so what will happen? So take this power equation and you apply the E and H here. So just put it this E and H values here. So what will happen? P equal to half into, so V into I, this E into H it will come. So since we have assumed it as 1, so this E and H into ds it will become 1. So then power will become half into V into I star. So now this V into I star, so which will be give it as 2 into P, or so P by half. Okay. So this, if you this half term, if you send it this side, the V into I star it will be P by half. So now we know the equation for impedance, that is Zin equal to R plus Jx, or it is V by I ratio. So now just multiply I both in numerator as well as denominator, then you will get V into I, that is complex conjugate if you multiply, and if you take the magnitude here it will give I square. So now this we can write it as the P by half. Since in this equation we have sent this half to this side, this V into I star it will become P by half, and I square as it is. So now this P, just we will take whatever it is already derived for one port network, and if you put it here, so then what will happen? So this power equation it will give in terms of that impedance value, in terms of power equation it is this one. So now the real part of the impedance is PL by half into I square, and the reactive part X is this much. Okay. So now if the network, if you take completely lossless, that means there is no loss in the power, that is loss of power in the network, then this PL will become 0. So then what will happen? This only reactance part we will get it, that is, so if you go to the numerator, it will become 4 omega into omega m minus omega e by I square. So now if you take this reactance, if omega m, which is the magnetic stored energy, and omega e, it is nothing but stored energy of, that is WE, sorry, so WE and WM, the magnetic stored energy and electric stored energy. So if the magnetic stored energy it will be greater than this one, then the reactance will be a inductive type, and if it is WE is greater than WM, then it will give the capacitive capacitive reactance. So if it is omega m is greater than omega e, then it will be a inductive reactance, and if it is omega e is greater than omega m, it will give the capacitive reactance. So that's how you will calculate the reactance as well as the impedance of a one port network. Okay. So is it